Do you suffer from debilitating migraines? You know, that throbbing pain in the front or side of your head that's so severe you're unable to work or do anything other than retreat into a dark and quiet room? Have you had them for years and just haven't found a solution? Call Dr. Elizabeth Ebersol and put an end to your debilitating migraines forever. Or go to her website at www.handmadehealth.com. That's www.handmadehealth.com.
Well, hello, everybody. Balls to the wall, and this is episode number 50, Mr. Billy Martin. How are you doing today? Kenny Matthews, your co-host here, and Billy, we got 50 of these things out of here, so I guess we're doing something maybe marginally right, at least.
You know, that's half a century worth of shows, so come on, that's pretty cool.
I will say this, I am digging the lid on the hat on the dome. I'm digging the jacket that you're wearing. I mean, man, life must be good to be Billy Martin Jr. these days.
Well, I got to spend some time at a really cool ranch in Cisco, Texas, where they were honoring veterans. Nice. And they had all kinds, not only veterans. Do you remember a UFC fighter by the name of Matt Hughes? He was a 9-time world champion.
Yeah,
and
pretty good.
He's had, and he was out there too, and they set up a hunt for him. He had some really bad brain injuries and has had to learn how to re-speak and walk and do everything. And it was an honor to meet him and all these veterans that fought for us. And some of them, were amputees, and I felt honored. I got to be honest with you. It was neat being around these guys.
It's not to get off the beaten path a little bit here, but just think about all of the veterans that your dad played with, all of his teammates. I mean, prior to him getting to the Yankees, while he was with the Yankees, and even after, when he was with the Yankees. I mean, it's we didn't grow up in that era of people just, dropping everything and going to war. I call it a blessing for me, because I think I would have been a horrible soldier. I really did. But the pride that your dad's generation had about doing that, I mean, it was never an afterthought. It was, hey, let's just go. We're going to do this thing. We're going to do it all the way through until this war is over. And I have a lot of respect for that. I mean, huge respect for it.
Oh, I do too. And we talk about it a lot on here about how guys like Ted Williams missed 4 years at the middle of their career, and my father got not 4 years, thank goodness for him, but he had won 4 World Series in a row, and then boom, after getting MVP of the World Series in '53 and winning the Babe Ruth Award, he goes and gets drafted to Korea. But they don't send him to Korea. They send him to Colorado to start running one of their baseball teams for the Army. And my dad's a little aggravated. He's like, guys, if you want to send me to Korea to fight for our country, send me. I'm here to play baseball. Can I not go finish doing what I was doing with the Yankees? Because that's my job,
If
So he finally was able to get out of there.
If I'm going to get some hacks, let it be at Yankee Stadium. Not in Mile High.
Absolutely.
That's crazy, man. What a generation. But yes, we do want to say Happy Veterans Day to everybody that's served, and the future people that serve. It's a big day. I think it should be. I really think we need to publicize that day a little bit more in America than we actually do. I think we kind of get around to doing it about 48 hours before, but that should be one of those things where whole month of November, I think we need to kind of start ratcheting it up for that, because without them, we don't have this vehicle, that's for sure. I mean, freedom of choice is not
Absolutely.
and it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or a Republican on that one. I mean, we don't have the freedoms that we got. But anyhow, hey, I want to talk about a couple things here, Judy. And we'll go over it kind of briefly here. We've got to talk about college football here a little bit. About the headliner started last Friday with the Harbaugh suspension. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. We thought it was, a lot of people kind of exaggerating the story. Now we've gotten a few tentacles since that time that we talked, Billy. And I will say this. I think the 3-game suspension is fair at this point in time. I mean, because obviously the Big Ten and NCAA have something. I'm not saying that they got a loaded gun, in a back room. I don't know if they've got a computer that says this or that. My problem is this, and I'm a Michigan guy as well. Putting this in the courts means that this thing just keeps lingering. I think about what the guys, the trash can guys, what they did. You think about how AJ Hinch handled it, how Joey Cora handled it, how Carlos Beltran handled it. They just took their punishment and said, hey, we apologize for what we did. We'll serve it out. Class. I think the Michigan thinks that they're bigger than everybody else sometimes, and they say, hey, we're Michigan and you guys are not. Just let it go. That way we're not talking about this anymore. We're actually talking about the game again instead of Jim Harbaugh now having to do this court hearing on Friday night. I just say let it go if you can. That's my point of view on that. I just want the story to go away. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Well, because like we talk about all the time. Yeah. Yeah. And like we talk about all the time, everybody does this.
Yes.
Every the opponent's signs in one way, shape, or form. And there are, of course, legal ways to do it, by watching the signs and trying to figure it out. But you're not trying to win unless you're trying to do it to some degree. I'm sorry. That's the way I feel. It's a family tradition that I get that. And, I mean, don't get caught. Do a better job of keeping it under wraps.
I feel bad for Mr. Stallings. He's the one that's fallen on the sword here, and he's a veteran too.
Yeah.
Here's the guy that's fallen on the sword. I mean, I think Harbaugh now, if this suspension holds up, he coaches half the year this year. He already served the 3-game suspension at the beginning of the season. He's already served one last week. I mean, is he going to give back some of that money since he only coached half of the season? No, just let it go. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, that's. And to be honest, even his suspension. I mean, do we really think he's not going to be still having something to do with some of the calls? I mean,
he coached the whole week except for 3.5 hours he's on the field.
If his neighbor Fred was right. Well, but even there, how do we know that his best friend Fred isn't going to be texting whatever assistant coach he wants him to, do this, do that?
Coach Moore has a bat phone if there was some texting last week, because I hope that he didn't use his own phone for that. Let's just hope that the burner phone was in effect. And somebody please make sure that sledgehammer got to it immediately after that victory last week against Penn State. But hey, we could go from stealing signs to stealing money, and we go with Jimbo Fisher. I mean, Jimbo, he had an ironclad contract. And I mean, we all kind of know, everybody knows now about, the $79 million, $75 million. Let me pull the exact figure up here before I don't want to quote it wrong.
Yeah. It's at least $75 million they still owe him.
Yeah, 75.
I mean, think about that. I mean,
first 60 days, he's going to get a direct deposit of $19.4 million to go away. so then the next
to go on vacation. Yeah.
Yes. And then within 120 days of that, just in case he spends all of that, Billy, just in case, he's going to get another direct deposit of $7.27 million. I mean, $26 million and quoted what? In 180 days. That's not bad work. That's not
no, that's not too shabby at all.
And the thing I like about this is A&M. I've talked to a lot of my Aggie friends, and this is the one thing. A lot of them said they thought it was a bad hire. And I said, okay, I understand you may, in hindsight, say that now. But why 2 years ago did they extend him on this deal? He warranted no extension. He already had a 7-year, $70 million contract at that point, $10 million a year, 7 years. Why did they extend it, Matt? I don't understand that. And now you've got $79 million going out to him. And what I've read over the weekend, they're counting this to be a $125 million mistake, meaning they got to pay these coaches that won't be back their contracts, his contract, and then you got to hire a new coach and a new coaching staff to go on top of that.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, and whoever they hire is going to be more expensive than Jimbo.
Now, let me ask you this, Billy. Do you think A&M is going to sign somebody to a 7-year deal again as a head coach? Or are we going to go back to the 5-year deal? At least. But my thing is,
you know what? That the market will dictate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it will. Yeah,
the market will dictate that, and sadly, you know what this is about. I mean, what does every Aggie hate worse than anything in life?
The boys down there in the capital of the state of Texas.
That is correct. They hate the Longhorns. And where are the Longhorns going to be next year? The Sooners are going to be in the SEC. And, in this new world of portal football, I think that's what this whole thing is about. They're terrified that UT may pull ahead of them in some way, shape, or form, and that they'll never recapture. It is hard to compete with Austin. College Station isn't Austin, and it's a great school and it's a great tradition and all that stuff. But, the town of Austin's got a little bit more to offer than College Station does. So I think that's what every ounce of this is about, because come on, Jimbo's had some nice years. He's the last couple of years haven't been as good as you'd want him to be, but I think with that kind of money and all the changes that have happened with portal football now, I'd be willing to give him a little bit more time to get his wheels under him with all these changes. But I think their fear of the University of Texas is what's causing this whole thing.
It precipitated it. It sped up it definitely put the I call it the end of the dynamite rope. It got there, and you can say what you want to about oil royalties coming through and all that kind of situation. It's there. A&M, since they've been in the SEC, has been talking about wanting to beat UT and keep playing in that game. Well, it's about to come here pretty quick. And I think A&M felt the pressure that maybe they are, like you said, slipping a little bit on the gridiron. And they don't want that, because they popped off their mouth for over a decade about it. And they don't want to get embarrassed when they actually do play each other. So, yeah, I feel bad in the way that Jimbo couldn't maybe finish out some of these recruiting classes, because he's really stacked up some nice recruiting classes the last 2 or 3 years. Now, a lot of them transferred last year, albeit I know that. But, you can't go 7-5 when you're deemed, one of the highest paid matches.
When you're ranked number 6.
Yeah, you can't. It just doesn't.
Yeah, and you're preseason ranked number 6 because of your recruiting class. I mean,
you can't do it. I mean,
yeah,
I'm with you. I thought maybe patience should have been paid off a little bit more, but every one of my Aggie friends, and I have a lot of Aggie friends, there wasn't one supporter of him staying on this deal. So if I know my group of friends wanted him out, I can't imagine what those donors were saying to themselves for the last 3 months when their team has been basically a 500 football team. I can't imagine. And you won't find a much better atmosphere for game day than Cal Field. You just won't. So, I mean, it's just they should be better than they are. They really should, But hey, if you're Jimbo,
they should be. But I still haven't figured out why do they even have chairs in that stadium?
Yeah. For soccer games.
I mean, they could probably fit a lot more people in there with, they got rid of all the seats.
When they host the track and field events, because you can't stand the whole time for that. Football games, they don't need them. No, they don't need them at all. No, they don't need them. And the thing about it, they're not that far removed from almost beating an Alabama team 2 years ago at their place. So there's some talent there. Somebody's walking into not a bare situation at all. There are some talented football players in that locker room. So it should be interesting to see who gets that job. Hearing Lane Kiffin and some others, but we'll talk about that a little next week. I want to get to something that's really dear to our hearts real quickly here. World Series moments from this past year. We haven't been able to talk to you guys since the Texas Rangers won over Arizona 4-1. It's been just a beautiful time here in the Metroplex on that. Had almost 1 million people at the parade a couple Fridays ago down in Arlington on a brisk, cool morning, to say the least. But, I want us to maybe kind of say a couple of moments that we had during the game here. Billy, I'll let you start off first. I mean, it was a good, entertaining series. I don't think that the national spotlight really got behind it just because of the markets. But, we had a dog in the hunt, so we'll go on and talk about it a little bit, and then we'll talk about next week. We'll maybe talk about some of the things going in the foreseeable future in baseball because, as we had today, you had the San Diego owner passed away today. Kind of a sad deal. I was wondering why you didn't hear so much about their new head coach search so much, but I guess he'd been kind of dealing with this the last couple of weeks. So I guess, that took precedence, but we definitely want to go out to the Padre family on that because, I mean, heck, he was only 63 years old, Billy. And you and I are knocking on that age. So, that's too young to be passing away. 2-time survival of cancer, and, shout out to them. But anyway, tough deal. But yes, I'll let you go first with your first World Series moment.
I'm going to go with the screen. When Corey Seager hit the first pitch, 1 out in the bottom of the 9th, and he's usually so stoic. Yes. Usually does the Mickey Mantle, duck my head, run around the bases, and he literally screamed, which I love. I love real.
Yes, it's a real emotion.
That he couldn't suppress that. That blasted out, and then he dropped his head and did run the bases very respectfully. And then after he crossed home, then he went and jumped around like a crazy man with his teammates, as he should have. And that was definitely a big moment for me.
Yeah, I like how you said it. Very stoic. He's even killed as anybody I've seen in a long time, on emotions and everything. You can even tell that even in the post-game interviews. He's still just very, right here, steady, boy. He is steady through it out. I'm going to go the exact opposite with somebody that's completely not stoic. That's Mr. Garcia. And Mr. Garcia, I'm going to go with game 2, him throwing out Christian Walker at the home at the plate. You could see that game was just kind of tilting, waiting for a big play to happen at that point in time. It's a tied ball game. He throws an absolute pill, gives the Rangers a little momentum going into the bottom half of that inning. I thought, especially after, how everything played out in that Astros series, you're talking about his bat, Garcia shows you that, yeah, I've got a pretty good glove and arm out here in right field too. I'm a two-way player. I'm not just a one-way player out here. Thought that was huge, and I thought it was a huge momentum swing for the Rangers at that time.
It absolutely was. Glad you went there because defense sometimes doesn't get the accolades it should.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a big part of the game. And here we got a guy that's set a record, a postseason record in RBIs.
Yeah.
And the first thing you're bringing up is one of his amazing plays in the field. And pretty neat, you know. I wonder what he would have done had he not hurt his oblique.
Yeah.
Still not totally certain that oblique isn't right where he was hit with that baseball, but that's another story. We could have another time. My second moment is John Gray coming in for Max Muncy,
Yeah.
who struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
John Gray, who wasn't even prepared to pitch that day, who's prepared to pitch the next day, comes in and pitches his butt off, and tip my hat to the job he did there.
Yeah. I mean, it's Jonathan Gray is he's a former Sooner, so I love him to death. But he is just one of those guys that when the Rangers acquired him 2 years ago, I guess the year before Simeon, and 3 years ago, I guess it was. He came with Simeon and Seager, and I thought, okay, this guy's probably maybe a third or fourth starter, on a World Series type team. I mean, he showed his worth there. I mean, he really did. I mean, he's coming off an injury. We didn't know if he was going to even make the World Series roster. So for what he did do, from what I understand, if the game would have gone 7 games, he was kind of being the penciled in as a 7th game starter. Very underrated pitcher. But like you said, man, he came in and mowed him down those 3 innings there in the middle. And I said, man, you just got to get it to the bullpen at that point in time. And he was able to do that, man. And he was nails. He really was. My second moment is going to be just the third strike, the called third strike. You don't see a World Series end often on a called third strike. You just really don't. And I mean, when you see that, and it's almost it was almost like it was delayed for a second there. Or maybe it was just his arm was going in slow motion to me. I'm not sure, But, the elation and the elation for the city. And I put this out on Facebook, guys. We can forgive Broomstick now, Manny Cruz. We can forgive him now for, let's just say this lack of effort in right field a few years ago against St. Louis. But I mean, it was just for the city, it was great for it, and it was for me. It really was.
Outstanding. Well, so my next one, I got to go with Nate Eovaldi's Game 5 performance. While his team's getting no hit, he got in trouble several times. He was so damn cool. I mean, he didn't freaking panic once. He just was the World Series stud he's always been. And, I mean, I don't know if you remember when the Red Sox won their
Absolutely.
Right there.
Absolutely.
Huge moment series.
Pitched in the 17
here he'd been their starter all year. Yeah, and next thing you know, he's their closer season, and he takes that job and runs with it and was insanely instrumental. And here you got a guy that's used to pitching every 5th day, pitching every damn night. And it was just as amazing as what we got to see him do. Obviously they know what they're doing when they grow pitchers in Alvin, Texas. But
decent water.
Hats off to Nate. That was fantastic.
To back your point a little, Billy, on that, props. That's the expression "ducks on the pond." He had ducks on the pond, and there's pressure pitches from the first inning on. I mean, but props to Bruce Bochy for leaving him in. That was prime analytics people saying, "Get him out!
About to say,
get him out! Get him out!" And Bochy stood there with his feet, with his leg crossed, and said, "Go get him, son. Go get him, son." And every time he left him in. So props to old school managing in a World Series coming through. Shocker, huh? Yes. And my last has got to be is game one.
It was not shocking to me.
No, it's not. No. I should take that back. I said shocking to your analytics nerds that were sitting there saying, "Why is he in the game in the third inning?"
Yeah.
Well, 6 shutout innings later, that's why he's in the game, son. That's why. You don't do it on your computer. It's played within the diamond. That's how the game is played. And my last one has got to be
that's because analytics. Yeah. That's because analytics guys talk about balls, but not athletes' balls. And there's a difference. And a guy like Nate Eovaldi, if I'm going to lose that game as a manager, I'll lose with him on the mound.
Absolutely.
It's been there, done it. I'm sorry. I want him. I want Scherzer. I want those guys that have been there and done it. And, next year's going to be amazing. This team's going to be even better. And you know what? So are the Astros. And, I wonder who they're going to hire now, because there was no shocking. There was a reason that Dusty and Bruce Bochy, two guys managing the American League Championship. So let's see if Espada got the same stuff. Yeah.
And I mean, I think the Astros said, "Hey, we want to still keep Dusty's kind of deal here. We want to keep this, unity of that." And I think that's the reason why you stayed in-house with that, which I think is an excellent hire, especially with this bunch they got left. I mean, you probably got 2-3 more years to run with those guys, at least, I would think, So, I mean, I know Altuve's in his 30s now, but I mean, you expect sooner or later that he's not going to hit 450-foot home runs. But, but still, I mean, you've got to make a run with it. And the division's tight. With Seattle as an upcoming team, they're very young. If they ever add some offense to that unit, they've got pitching. I mean, they've got pitching in the minors. They've got pitching on the major league roster right now. That division's not going to do you any favors, going forward. So, I feel bad for the Angels and the A's. They got a long road to go to catch those 3 guys now in that division. But, yeah, you're right. It's just, you got to have a little bit of that old school mentality, because your analytics don't factor in pressure points of the game. A 4th inning in July is way less than a 4th inning in September and October. It's a difference. It's a huge difference, man. So, yeah, it was great to see that. And, I mean, Boch, he's a Hall of Fame coach now. I mean, there's no question. He's got 4 rings. There's only a couple people that got more rings than him, as a skip. I mean, his postseason record is unreal. Nate Eovaldi, 5 postseason wins this year. I mean, that's 5 this year that he got. I mean, that's unreal. That's doing some damage. I mean, it really is. And like you said, the Rangers aren't going anywhere, because I think that the owners are going to keep trying to make that team better. And with that being the case, you might need to get a little younger in some of your starting pitching, but that's a pretty good team, and I'm looking forward to next year. And Hot Stove Leave is right around the corner, and I'd love to talk to you about that. But we told you guys we want to keep it brief, so we will. We'll get into some hot stove stuff next week. But Billy, It's been a wonderful week. Enjoy. We got beautiful weather here in the Metroplex finally. Enjoy your sports weekend. Like I said, I'm loving that hat. I'm going to have to get me one of those. I'm loving the hat, Billy.
I dare you. It's I've got my Texas Ranger badge right here because for this year was the bicentennial
That is
of
awesome.
our nation's oldest law enforcement agency in the country. The Texas Ranger started in 1823, and how appropriate that on their 200th anniversary, the baseball team named after him wins their first World Series.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
Man. Props to Turnpike Stadium back in the day, baby. Well, hey, guys, we do appreciate you. And, hey, if you can, go to our social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter. And please like and subscribe. That'll help us out. Drop us a line and tell us what you like maybe us to talk about. We would be more than happy to let Rumble being another one on that. We do appreciate you. We'll catch you guys next week. Billy, always an honor. Episode 51 next week, buddy.